Hey, what's up? My name is Daoud Heidami. I am a real estate agent, founder and principal of the Catalyst team at Compass. And we are very fortunate to have a lot of wonderful friends who are joining us for a New York conversation. And this began and started from a place of wanting to hear from New Yorkers and hearing what their stories are and who they are. So, talking about small businesses that have been affected during COVID. So we're excited to chat with everyone. So today we have a special guest, Kathleen. How are you?
I'm fine, Daoud. How are you?
I'm good. I told you this over the phone, which is that what a great, wonderful thing this opportunity is for me to reconnect with you, because I haven't talked to you in such a long time. How are
I
you?
know. We each talk to all the friends we have in common and talk around each other. So, oh,
Yeah.
sweetheart, it's so good to see you.
Oh, you too. You too. It's you know, we didn't really have an opportunity to talk about this, but this all started from this place of, I'm sure you read a bunch of articles about how New York is dying or New York is dead. And I was like, this is so
Right,
the complete opposite of that, because, so I said, let me talk to my friends who are New Yorkers to hear what their story is and to get a sense of, and a lot of this for me and you, like I'm excited to hear about your New York story. And then the other piece of it is to sort of talk about small businesses, and what we'll do is I'll repost this and tag those small businesses and hopefully give a shout out to those, because what do New Yorkers do but support each other, right? So I
right.
figured this was a great opportunity to do that. So that's where it all started. So New York is your place. Why is my first question.
W- Um, Henry and I moved to New York City in 1973. And in 1973, I was 28 years old, and we had two children, our
Hmm.
son David, who was 5, and our daughter Andromache, who was 1, and now they're much older than that. And we both, Henry and I, wanted to live in New York for our work. Henry, at that time, was a stone sculptor and has become, since then, the graffiti photographer. All those pictures of New York graffiti that you've ever seen are Henry's pictures, and he was the producer of the first hip hop documentary called Style Wars, and he just had a big in 2019 a big retrospective at the Bronx Museum.
Wow.
Uh, so that's why Henry came, and I came to be an actor,
Yes.
which I'd always wanted to do, and had been doing in a kind of catch as catch can way before I came to New York. And so on um, January 14th, 1973, which was my 28th birthday, I went to interview with Win Handman,
Mm.
thinking that I was much too old ever to have a career in the theater. I was starting late, you know. And he, for reasons that I never understood, accepted me. I always thought it was maybe because my dad had been in the Coast Guard during the Second World War, and so had Win.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's
anyway,
amazing.
yeah.
So you, well, first of all, what does Henry have? What's his business? Like, how can people see some of his
You
art?
Henry has a website. Just Google Henry Chalfant, Chalfant, and you will have many opportunities.
Amazing. Does he have an Instagram page by any chance?
He does have an Instagram page, but he doesn't use it either.
Okay.
But he
Okay.
does have an Instagram page. I don't know what he's called on Instagram.
Okay. But even just his website is great, because I love that. So where did you move from to New
We
York?
moved from so this is the whole thing. We got married in Berkeley, California in 1966. And in 1967, we moved to Barcelona for where Henry was studying with a sculptor. And we lived there for about a year and a half, and our son David was born there. And then we moved to Rome, where both of us had been in college. And we lived there for a couple of years, and I studied with this amazing man named Alessandro Fersen, who was a great Italian teacher and director, and he was an amazing person. And every once in a while, I run into other people who studied with Fersen. And then we came home because we found ourselves in an anti-war march in the middle of Rome.
Oh, wow.
And realized that we were living in paradise, and at that time foreigners were also couldn't vote, and so we decided we should put our money where our mouth was, and we came home, and we ended up living in Woodstock for about a year and a half, where Andromache was born. And then we finally made our way to New York City, and we've lived now in 3 places in New York City. We started on the Upper West Side at 90th and Riverside, and we lived there for 20 years. And then we moved to the West Village, and we lived there for the better part of 20 years. And now we've been in Brooklyn. We're in Brooklyn Heights, and we've been here for 5 years.
Wow.
So I think this may be the end.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have, I'm not sure that there's another move at the end of this particular 20 years.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So you were in Woodstock, and then you went to the Upper West Side, West Village. What made you move from the West Village to Brooklyn?
Well, this is actually a real estate story, Daoud.
Oh,
We lived at 282 West 4th Street, which was the corner of West 4th Street and West 11th, in what had been 2 little brick buildings that had been part of a development in 1845, and they'd been put together. And we lived on the top floor and had a roof garden, and then we rented the rest of it.
Amazing.
And it was a corner building with a little studio attached to it. A studio in which we discovered many years later, we kept finding people who had connections to this place, including Joanne Akalaitis, who'd been, when she first came to New York, a housekeeper in that studio. But anyway, so somebody made us an offer. One of those offers, life-changing offer, because they wanted that piece of property. They wanted a corner in the West Village, and they have since then bought the house next door, and it's a big deal.
Amazing.
So anyway,
Do
and then we could have lived anywhere, and by that time we were in a business partnership. The building belonged to us and our 2 children, each in thirds. And our daughter, Andromache, who was then living in Red Hook, said, well, we thought we might come and live in Brooklyn. And she said, well, why don't you get a Brooklyn brownstone, because there are only so many of them and there won't be any more. And so we began looking, and we found one that we liked, but it was one of those real estate circumstances where you go into the house, and the first time you go, you think, oh, wow. And then every time you go in after that,
that is so rare.
I don't know, there's something about this that is, but we had to make we had to decide quickly.
Yeah.
All this happened very fast. So we were we made an offer on this house that we didn't like so much anymore. And I just was looking at Street Easy, which I refer to as real estate porn. And I saw that this house that we now live in had just slipped into our price range
Hmm.
just that very day.
Wow.
And so we came to look in it, and we walked in the door and we knew.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. It's so funny because all the people that we've worked with, their gut always makes the decision. When you walk in, you just know that, and that's
Yeah.
exactly the sentiment that everyone describes. Do you ever walk by your old place in the West Village and go, I
Well, we
wonder?
do. It's been under serious construction
Is it?
since we sold it, because nothing structural had been ever done to it since 1845, and we know that because we made some renovations on our own, and it was still built out of wood and lath and plaster. But
Wow.
and we were in trouble actually because it was beginning to have some serious infrastructure issues, and Henry was spending a lot more time in the basement dealing with the pipes than he wanted to be, and we didn't quite know what to do. So this gift came out of the blue, and we'd never seen the house empty,
Yeah.
but we moved out and realized that it was only standing up anymore because it was used to it. So these people put in more steel than the Brooklyn Bridge, and now it will never fall down.
Oh my gosh.
And we're beginning to be able to see it, and I think they've done a wonderful job. It's two guys and a dog,
Wow.
but it's going to be a big house.
Yeah.
And so
I
yeah, we walk by all the time and look at what's happening. I this I sometimes we go by and think not so much of the house, though it was a wonderful house in many ways, but the scale of the village is nice. And this,
yes.
where we are in Brooklyn, those were actually built as quite modest houses.
Yes. I,
And this one is a little bit grander, so sometimes it's a little daunting.
yes. But I imagine that this nice couple that made you this amazing offer, and then they purchased the property next door. I imagine they're combining both.
They have now are now it, that building, our building, and the thing was 6,400 square feet. So they're somewhere around 12,000 square feet now.
Amazing.
Oh, then I didn't tell you. They dug 2 stories down under
What?
the building. Apparently, they put a swim. It's it's beyond anything you can imagine. I think there's a swimming pool in the basement.
We'll have to go and take a tour once it's all done.
Someday.
So I love this journey that you were on. So because you've kind of been all over, you know New York. So
Yeah.
what's your favorite New York corner?
Oh golly, what is my favorite? I don't know what my favorite New York corner is. There
Okay,
are
how about 2?
so many. Well, I have to say, having lived at the corner of West 4th Street and West 11th Street, I like that corner. I like that happens
Yeah.
very much.
What do you love about that corner?
I I, I
Is it?
love it's the scale of the buildings. Even now that one of them is 12,000 square feet, but you can't tell from the outside. It's the scale of the buildings and the kind of simplicity of it, and that was a nice corner, and it was also always fun to have to explain to people how that happened.
Mm,
How West 4th Street how 4th Street sort of turned north at a certain point, just
yes.
because it felt like it.
Do you so which home were you in when you were nominated for a Tony for Angels in America?
173 Riverside Drive. 170. Wait a minute. Yes, 170. No, 175 Riverside Drive.
What? So the Upper West Side.
On the Upper West Side, yeah.
And what about Wit?
And for Wit, I was at 282 West 4th Street.
So my question is, do you have, like, when these magical moments happen, and you are one of the most amazing actors that I've ever witnessed.
Oh,
And honestly, like, I'm wondering, like, when you are part of a journey of an extraordinary story that you have been on these journeys, do those events have a huge impact for you in terms of your relationship to New York and then also in the places that you live?
They do. Yes, they do. Though Angels, I was involved with Angels in America for 6 years, from 1988, when I did the first reading in the McGraw-Hill building. Actually, that's where the offices of the New York Theater Workshop were in 1988. Until Ellen McLaughlin and I were the last of the original company to leave the show on Broadway, and we left in 1994 together. We said that we would leave together. But it was very exciting to be in Angels on Broadway, and it was very glamorous because it was one of the many times that year, whatever year that was one of those years that they say is 100 years of Broadway. You know, they do that every once in a while.
Yeah.
So we were one of the 100 years of Broadway, and because it was such a big, we were made much of, and, you know, taken out by the New Yorker and all, and so it was really glamorous. And we lived at the theater because, of course, we were either doing both parts of the play, which was 8 hours or so, or 10 hours of your day, or we were in the beginning rehearsing one of the plays and doing the other one at night. So for the better part of 2 years, we just lived at the Walter Kerr Theatre.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Most of the time. And that was, you know, and there were, Tommy was down the street, and most of my work has been off Broadway. And so this was, this was like being in one of those movies about Broadway.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful time. Wit was a different kind of experience, and Wit was a very, what happened with Wit, and it still happens every once in a while, people stop me because people used to stop me after Angels in America, usually young Mormon men who said, "You're just like my mother." That's what they would say. But
Wow.
after Wit touched people in an extraordinary way, and people who were survivors, people who had been caregivers, people who were physicians or nurses, and used to, and as I say, still do.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it in New York for 2.5 years, I guess. We started,
Wow.
on 26th Street, and then moved to 17th Street.
Wow.
And that was a real New York experience.
Hmm.
And the other, oh wait, no, we were still at 175 for Wit. For the beginning of Wit. How is that possible? Yes, because because it was a big an apartment building, right? And people would come and see it. And at MCC, it was a tiny little theater. And at the end of the play, I was naked. And all of a sudden, I'd be in the elevator with people. When I'd been in Angels in America, people used to ask me to say the Kaddish because I said it in Angels in America. Ethel Rosenberg did. And when I was in Wit, people just looked a little oddly at me in the elevator.
Oh my gosh.
And then
Those are,
in the
it's
middle
so
of
amazing. So, these experiences have kind of lead me into this next question, which is, was there one event, or was it just a number of events that led you to fall in love with New York? Because you have such a prolific career that you work in Los Angeles too. You could move to Los Angeles. You could just work TV and film. You know, why do you stay in New York? What made you fall in love with New York?
Well, I'm from California, which is probably one thing. I'm from the Bay Area. I was born in San Francisco, and the place I lived the longest was Oakland. Very cool, Oakland. From the 6th grade to when I graduated from college. And my glamorous gay brother, Alan, lived in San Francisco and had a glamorous life in San Francisco. And as I was growing up, always thought, we called San Francisco the city. But my experience always was that people would leave San Francisco and come to New York and then come back and say, you think this is the city, but actually the real place is New York. And that happened to me when I came here. This is going to sound so pretentious. The only other place that I could think of to live is Rome. And it's the only other place I've felt at home in the same way as, but New York, my children have grown up here. My grandchildren have been in and out. One of them is growing up here. This is home.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I've never been prouder of anywhere than how New York was during the pandemic. And the idea that we beat it.
Yes.
And the other thing I love about New York is New York is what America promised. We're all living here together. All of us in the street, all together, all the time. And if we can do it, then this is how it's supposed to be. Sometimes it doesn't do it better than others, but this is how it's supposed to be. Not whatever those crazy people.
Yeah. I'm not sure where. I think it was somebody who probably didn't even live in New York, which is why you can't. You got to hear it from New Yorkers. And to that end, tell me a little bit about some small businesses that you love. I know you mentioned New York Theater Workshop, which is a small business.
There are all sorts of the small businesses that are closest to me right now are the ones that have seen us through the last year and a half, because it's I live practically at the corner of Hicks Street and Joralemon in Brooklyn Heights. And so we have actually if we were living in England, 2 high streets. One is Atlantic Avenue, which is a big one, and the other is Montague Street, which has remarkably maintained. It has, like all the streets in New York now, empty, storefronts, but it has maintained an extraordinary number of small businesses, and those were the heroes that
Hmm.
kept us alive during the pandemic. They're
Amazing.
the the I don't know if I the chain of Key Foods is now a huge thing, but it's a co-op,
Oh.
and each store is individually owned,
Hmm.
and and it started in Brooklyn. I actually just found that out today. But
Oh, wow.
our Key Foods on Montague Street between between Hicks and Henry was fed the neighborhood,
Hmm.
took care of everybody, had what you needed. Everybody was unfailingly courteous, and they, established the rules and followed them.
Hmm.
It was our, and I shopped not only for us, but we had a friend that we were looking after, and I shopped for her. So they never closed. They
Wow.
were open the whole time.
Wow.
And two doors down from them is a bakery, a kind of sort of bakery deli called Lassen and Hennig, which is an old business, and they stayed open too.
What are they called?
Lassen, Lassen, and Hennig, Hennig.
Amazing.
And then the 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 Pet Emporium, Sam's Pet Emporium on the north side of Montague Street was there all the time because,
Wow.
people had dogs, right?
Right. Right.
And cats and everything else. Um, and there's a florist shop owned by a woman named Estella called Joseph A. Weir. And they moved from one end of Montague Street to the other in the course of the pandemic, and Estella opened as soon as she could.
Wow.
Um, uh,
That, that's extraordinary, honestly, like listening to this story, because it reminds me of like our neighborhood and the businesses that stayed open and really helped sustain New Yorkers and help us get past this such a unique time
yeah.
in all of our lives that we'll never forget.
And the heroic people who worked in them.
Yes.
People came to work every day.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, was it was really really amazing. And then that the city chemist was always open. There's
Hmm.
a wonderful housing works on Montague Street, and on Atlantic Avenue is one of the best. I mean, there's Sahadi's, of course.
Yes.
And next to Sahadi's is the Damascus Bakery.
Oh
So
yeah. That's a great spot.
that's a great spot. There's Della Pietra's, which is a, a, a work of art of a butcher shop. And even for a person who doesn't eat mammals like me,
Yes.
the joys of Della Pietra's and the people who work in there it's amazing. And then, of course, um, the Heights Chateau, which kept us all afloat on cases of wine until it felt like everybody about a year in said, "Oh, maybe we've been drinking a little. Maybe we should see if we could stop." So, which was a good thing. But
I think you were on the same boat as all the other New Yorkers.
yes, right. We thought,
So
whoa.
you are amazing, and I'm so grateful and so happy that you've taking a little time to share these stories with us. And what I want to do is I want to play a little fun word association game. The words are going to be connected about New York, and
Okay.
I want to hear the first thing that comes to mind. So we'll do like 3 to 10, and then that's it. We'll call it. You ready?
Okay.
We're going to start off with Subway.
The 1, 2, 3, and
Central
the 9.
Park. What?
The 1, 2, 3, and the 9.
Oh, the 9.
9.
Where did that change from the 9
It's
to?
gone.
Oh, it's just gone.
Gone.
Wow.
Okay.
Central Park.
The Weir.
Oh, nice. Brunch spot.
My backyard.
Dog park.
Down below, down below Atlantic Avenue, where the hospital used to be.
Amazing.
And Riverside Park, which is where our dog went.
What's your doggy's name?
Well, our doggy is no more. Our doggy lived to be 15. His name was Ptolemy.
Oh, amazing. 15 is a really great lifespan.
Yeah.
I'm sure you took such wonderful care. I'm
Well,
sorry.
he was a Basenji, so it was an arrangement that we made between us that we would all live together.
Amazing. Okay, I have 2 more, and the favorite place to take a tourist.
Now, Brooklyn Bridge Park.
Oh, that's fairly new, isn't it? Because I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years. I lived on Flatbush and Lincoln Road, so the Prospect Park stop. So one stop past Park Slope.
Right. Well, now it's Brooklyn Bridge Park is one of those, pier parks made on the old piers, and it is a miracle because it works and it's full all the time. And anytime you think that the world is going to come apart because people can't somehow be together, if you go down to that park, you'll find people from everywhere, all of whom live here.
Wow. I'm going to have to visit.
And it has a swell view, and you can see the back of the Statue of Liberty, which you don't often see.
Wow. That sounds like a magical place. Okay, we're going to end it with weirdest New York sighting.
My mind has gone blank, Daoud.
There have been a couple. One was someone, New York is back when everyone's arguing out on the street and no one cares who's listening to. It's just everyone bringing all of their problems from inside to outside.
That's true. I guess, if you live in New York, however long this has been, Jesus, how long is it from 1973 to 2020? A long time, 50 years.
Yeah.
Nothing seems weird anymore.
Yeah. That's an excellent answer. Oh my gosh. I love you so much. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And please send my love to Andromache. And we're going to make sure to see Henry's artwork. I love that. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. Go find Henry. And Les is going to Broadway.
Yes, I do. So exciting. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, love.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.